Hello everyone, thank you for joining the channel. Today I want to talk about what I thought was a conspiracy theory that actually turned out to be a true development plan by the US government. So recently I was discussing with my buddies about how there's like a project from SpaceX and it led to, oh yeah, did you know that the US government was about to blow up the moon? Now, that sounds like the craziest idea ever, but this was an actual project. This project was because the USSR, the Soviet Union at the time, was speeding their way into the space race faster than the US government in the 1950s. One thing that we did seem pretty confident in was the development of hydrogen bombs, the H bombs. So within these hydrogen bombs, they're supposedly more destructive than the atomic bomb dropped in Hiroshima in 1945. In 1952, the United States successfully exploded their very first hydrogen bomb. However, 3 years later, the Soviets have also developed their own hydrogen bomb. And not only that, they did something even more surprising to the United States by launching the Sputnik 1, as you may see from this image. It was concluded as the very first artificial satellite in orbit around the world. Now you have the United States very worried that not only do they have hydrogen bombs developed, but their very first and own satellite, which definitely had them take the lead into the space race. So the development of this project A119 was envisioned by a scientist named Carl Sagan. And this project's primary purpose was as a show of force against the Soviets. The bomb would explode on the approximately named Terminator line, which is the border between the light and dark side of the moon, to create a bright flash of light that anyone, but particularly anyone in the Kremlin, could see with the naked eye. The absence of the atmosphere meant that there would not be a destructive mushroom cloud. But also, as a scare tactic from the Soviet side, they decided to develop their own plan. This plan was codenamed E4. This plan was essentially a carbon copy of what the United States has planned, which was, interestingly enough, if we can't win the fight, we're just going to blow up like the surface of the moon. So for us, it was Project 119. For them, this was codename E4. So there are a few reasons why, and gratefully so, that this has never been fully initiated. So for the very first reason is because, well, if they failed to launch this nuke that went up in space, because I I believe they haven't officially, like, they threw a satellite up in the space, but not like a rocket ship, so not even a nuclear bomb at the time. They thought that, well, if we shoot this hydrogen bomb up in space, will it essentially go back down and blow us up instead? Second thing is potentially starting a nuclear war against many different nations, and likely that would be pretty much the end of humanity. So again, scientists have determined that the mission was technically possible, but the risks would be enormous. A launch failure would have dropped a nuclear weapon back onto Earth, and many researchers worried about contaminating the moon. So if, let's say, Neil Armstrong took his very first steps on the moon, he probably would have radioactive poisoning already just by entering the atmosphere. So Project A119 remains one of the strangest and most alarming ideas of the Cold War. This was essentially a reminder of how far superpowers were willing to go into this race of dominance. And that is the conclusion of the crazy plan of blowing up the moon. Thank you all for joining me in this discussion, and hopefully that we all appreciate what the outcome was in the end.